Human beings can turn nothing into something, pennies into fortune, disaster into success. And the reason humans can do those remarkable things is because they are remarkable. So if I had a word with you tonight, one-on-one, just you and me, I think my personal advice to you would be, reach down inside of you and come up with some more of those remarkable human gifts. They're there, waiting to be utilized. And then change anything for you want to change. And I challenge you to do that because you can change. If you don't like how it is for you, change it. If it doesn't suit you, change it. If it doesn't please you, change it. If it isn't enough, change it. And I challenge you to do that because you can change. See, you don't ever have to be the same again after tonight, only by choice. If you don't like your present address, change it. You're not a tree.
If there's hunger, the answer can be found for anything. I mean, that's what I really know in my soul. I've experienced it over the last 38 years of my life. And Jim Rohn planted the seeds for that. You know, his whole philosophy that take a rich man to dinner, you know, the idea that, hey, you know, most people say he's rich, let him take me to dinner. The whole philosophy of, no, I want to take this man to dinner. I want to pick his brain. I want to learn. I want to compress decades into days if possible. And that obsession with the idea that success does leave clues, that if someone is successful at something consistently, they're not lucky. There's something they're doing different, and looking for that difference, that approach allows anyone to get what they really want.
Poor people ought to take rich people out to dinner and listen. That's some of the best I got. If a guy's not doing well, one of the first things he ought to do is find a guy that is doing well and offer to buy him his dinner. But you're right. Poor people don't usually take rich people out to dinner. That's the problem. The guy said he's rich, let him buy his own dinner. I'm not coming up with any money. And he says, besides, you work where I work, by the time you struggle home, it's late. You're lucky to get your own supper, let alone running around trying to find a rich man to feed. And the guy's behind on his house payment. Good worker, hard worker, sincere. But you got to be better than sincere, work hard. You wind up broke. You got to be better than a good worker. You got to be a good listener. And remember, what you read and what you hear, put the good stuff in your journal. Now here's the third way to find out how to change your life. And that's to observe. You can pick up a lot of ideas just by watching. Get around successful people and watch. Here's why. Success leaves clues.
Most people have a gap between where they are and where they really want to be. And closing that gap sometimes seems really huge because we've had so many disappointments in our lives. Times where you disappointed in yourself. You promised yourself you're going to do something and you pulled back out of fear, or you procrastinated, or you put it off, or you tried and failed. What I found is that all change happens in a moment. There's a moment when you say, it's over, I love you, you know, I do. Let's get started. There's a moment when things change. And whenever people tell me, oh, it took me 10 years to get, you know, to make this change, I say, no, it took you a moment. It took you 10 years to get to the moment where you finally said, no more, I'm going to take action. And Jim, he instinctively, you know, I was around him so much, that whole philosophy of looking at life that way powerfully shaped me, and it made me believe that there are answers that could make that change. And so it led me to tools. Jim's philosophy led me to find strategies. And I think you need both in life. Without a philosophy, you're not going to enjoy your life. Without a philosophy, you're not going to get yourself to follow through. Lots of people know what to do, but they don't do what they know. But you also need strategies. And, you know, Jim's idea of success leaving clues also really influenced me. So I said, I'm going to go figure out what works. I'm going to figure out the strategy to match the philosophy to produce the results that I wanted in my life. And I think the dovetail of those two approaches has helped me to help millions of people, as Jim did.
Here's what success is. The steady progress in reaching your own personal goals. That's what success is. The steady progress in reaching your own personal goals. designing your life like you want it, and making steady progress to get there. That is your personal design. So don't let anybody design your life for you, tell you how you ought to live. Let them give you the principles as they see them. Let them give you the truth as they see it. Let them give you their view from their perspective. But then you take that into account, and then you go design your own life.
My approach is really simple. I can't turn it off. It's who I am. I'm a hungry, driven person. And if you ask me what is the one differentiation between anyone who succeeds on a large scale versus those that end up making excuses for falling short of what they really want from their life, it's hunger. Hunger's more important than intelligence. It's more important than anything other than heart and caring. If you're hungry enough, you'll find the answer.
Let me just quickly give you a list of 4 emotions that can change your life in one day. Emotions are powerful. Sometimes it doesn't take much to alter your whole life direction. Okay, here they are. Number 1, disgust. Powerful emotion. Disgust says, I have had it. See, that could be the day. The day you can say, I've had it. And whether you've had it with something small or something major, the day you can say, I've had it, may not be the day it ends, but the day it begins. The man's finally had it with mediocrity. He's had it with being a loser. He's finally had it with those awful sick feelings inside, knowing his wife is at the grocery store looking at 2 cans of beans, one marked 37 cents, one marked 39 cents, and the guy sick inside knows his wife's going to buy the 37-cent can, and she doesn't even like the brand. Do you know why she's going to buy the 37-cent can? To save 2 cents. The guy sick inside finally says, I've had it. Being on my knees in the dust looking for pennies? We're not living like this anymore. Here's the next one, decision. And decision making is powerful. And it's emotional. That's those knots in the pit of your stomach, right? Waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, trying to decide. We sometimes call it inner civil war. What shall I do? Well, for progress, you must decide. The best advice I can give you came from a wealthy friend of mine who said, if it's easy, do it easy. If it's hard, do it hard. Just get it done. Here's the next emotion, desire, wanting to bad enough. And I don't know how to tell you to want to. That's something you've got to come up with. Welcome every human experience. You never know which one is going to turn it all on. Even the bad experiences. Sometimes from the bitterest experience comes the greatest awakening. So let down the barriers, take down the walls. The same wall that keeps out disappointment keeps out happiness. Let life touch you. Don't let it kill you, but let it touch you. Here's the last one. This one's powerful. Resolve. Resolve says, I will. 2 of the most powerful words in the language. I will. The man says, I will climb the mountain. They've told me it's too high, it's too far, it's too rocky, it's too difficult, it's never been done before, but it's my mountain, I will climb it. Pretty soon you'll see me waving from the top. Or dead on the side, because I ain't coming back.
Well, Jim Rohn used to always come to the end of a seminar and he'd talk about the day that'll turn your life around. And he used to talk about these different emotions like disgust and resolve. And the way I look at it is there's a chemistry to transformation. There's some elements that are necessary, and Jim talked about it in his way, and I absorbed it, and then I kind of looked at it as the years have gone by on my own. And I think part of it, a first step for transformation for a lot of people is just becoming satiated. You know, it's not that things have to be bad. You know, a lot of people think, oh, I've got to have that day of total disgust. And I don't know, sometimes what it really takes is, I'm just tired of this. You know, it's like it could be really good if your favorite meal was steak and lobster and you had it every single day of your life. You know, after a while, after about 6 months or 3 or maybe a week or 2, I don't know what it is for you, where your threshold is, there's a point where your brain says, you know, there's nothing wrong with this, but it's not enough anymore. And I think that's when people begin the search for change. That most people won't change based on satiation, but they'll begin the search for change. I think the next piece of that chemistry is when you start to not just be satiated, but when you start to really be dissatisfied. Because now there's more emotion, there's more, this is not enough, you know, there's a greater urgency. And when you get to that threshold, my experience is that there's usually at that point an insight, and you know that it's not your brother or your sister or your boss or your employees or whoever, that it's not the government. All those things can play a role, obviously, but it's you. And when you realize there's something in you to shift, that's a pretty critical moment, and I consider that to be the opening. But it's an interesting experience I've seen in life, and that is the opening is there just for a moment, and you have to jump through that opening into the unknown, into the darkness, and most people aren't willing to, and the opening closes and they get to start all over again and wait till they get satiated enough and dissatisfied enough and hit another threshold and get another insight. I always tell people, divorce your story and marry the truth. You know, there's a truth that's larger than your story, and when you find that truth and act on that truth, life changes. So I think that's how life gets changed. But when you hit that threshold, you got to look for the insight, and you got to find a real truth, and you got to act on it, even though it's scary, even though you have no idea what's on the other side.
One of the great watchwords of these early years of the 21st century: pay attention. If you just watch, you can pick up clues. Success leaves clues. And if you'll be a better observer of the winners and the losers, those that are doing well and those that are falling behind, and just take mental notes and good notes and say, I'm going to adjust what I'm doing based on what I see.
All that transformation has come from success leaves clues. You know, for things to change, you got to change. Things to get better, you got to get better. It's come from the understanding that motive does matter. It's come from some of those fundamental philosophies that Jim imprinted on me, and I imprinted on myself, because I didn't just listen passively, I listened actively, which again is what I hope people will do with this program.
You got to have ideas that feed your mind, not just your body. And the miracle of the mind is so fabulous to work out your future, to give you all the equities you could possibly hope for, to give you every dream and every treasure you could possibly want for you and your family and the people you care most about. It's all available. But it is a very basic, simple process. Once you've found the few things, spend most of your time and money working on those few things. Okay, we call these basics. Basics. Fundamentals, another good word. If you're going to play football, you got to learn the fundamentals. And there's about how many? There's about a half a dozen, right? That'll make you good at it if you practice those half a dozen. A few other things, yes, but the half a dozen are what's important to lay the groundwork. Basics, fundamentals.
I think if someone's watching this now, something has called them. And I find that very often some people are hungry at 5, which I was, partially by my environment made me hungry to find answers. And some people don't get hungry until they hit a stage of life that's usually 30, 35 years old, because around that time you begin to realize you're not invincible. You begin to realize, holy shit, all the things I thought were just going to come together just didn't all come together. And you get serious about not just being overly confident and saying, I need to do more, I need to grow more, I need to understand more. I was fortunate enough to have that hunger early on. I think, again, it wasn't so much special for me as probably my environment required it. You know, and necessity is the mother of invention. So I had an environment that I wouldn't wish on too many humans, but I'm very grateful for what it brought out for me. But if someone's watching this now at any age, I think there must be something inside them hungry enough, curious enough to listen at this point. And I trust that they're going to be guided to expose themselves to it. And then when you're in front of the truth, it'll grab you. And what's beautiful about Jim Rohn's truths, they're so simple.